that link now goes, and I'm going to put it in the chat as well, to an interactive database that we just launched this morning. Will allow you to explore the projects and interact with our staff outside of emails if there's anything about the projects that we're capturing that need to be corrected. So link in the chat, also available on screen, so you might want to bookmark that. This is a database that's different, but connected to the apply.nashvillempo.org app that you've been using to submit your project applications. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to go to the application. It's already open. Ignore the URL in my browser. Use the one in the chat. It'll redirect to the URL in my browser, so don't let that confuse you. I'll walk you through this very briefly. The best way to learn this is just go to the site, poke around, and ask questions if something seems confusing to you. I'm going to highlight the project list tab at the top, and I'm going to also highlight the notes and actions tab at the top. I'll spend a little bit more time talking about those, as well as the resources tab, and then I'll just give you a quick overview of what the other tabs mean. So the project list here is basically an interactive representation of what has been presented to you at previous meetings and the PDF that we've been handing out. So a simple look at the current project candidate list. Application ID is the unique ID associated with each application that was created at apply.nashvillempo.org. That has also been the ID that we've been referencing on the left side of the handouts that you've seen at the previous meetings. And then the rest of this information is pretty straightforward. You got your project name, the applicant or the sponsor. Those mean different things. Typically, an applicant is the entity organization applying for funding for a project, but they may not ultimately be the sponsor, which we typically use that term to refer to the agency that will be responsible for implementation. We're kind of merging those two together now. The primary source of information for this column is who applied for the funding. But in some cases, there may not be an applicant yet. So we're kind of maybe indicating who might be the lead agency. So if you are associated with a project that you don't feel comfortable with, just let us know. It may be an issue that the distinction between applicant and sponsor. And then counties, this is the counties that the project is located in. Most projects are located within a single county, but there are a few multi-county projects. Improvement type, that is different than what we call the application category, which is also part of the details. When I go to the project, the details page here in a second, you'll see application category. If you remember, when you apply for a project, you fill out one of 4 forms: roadways form, transit form, greenways form, or a program form. Improvement type is a lot more specific than that. And our staff is going through now and coding each project to a very individualized improvement type. You can actually see the list of improvement types that we will be using for the coding under list management. I'll maybe end on that. 10-year horizon is the desired horizon. There's not been any recommendation made as to which horizon a project would be implemented. But it's the information that you submitted to us in terms of the desired horizon or your expected horizon for delivering a project. Then you've got the 10-year plan column. It's our assessment of whether or not a project is included in the TDOT's 10-year plan, which is part of their Build With Us program. When we get to the resources tab, I'll show you how to verify that yourself through a link there. Federal share is what you would have provided to us. It's no indication of what we are determining as being either a maximum federal share or recommended federal share. There are a lot of zeros here, which I'm going to assume to be probably just an omission of that information in the application. These probably all need to be 80% unless it's indicated as 100% for a project that would otherwise be eligible for that full federal share. Total cost is what you provided us. It's not been vetted. It's not a cost estimate provided independently by our consultants. And then the last column on this page is the link to the application and the apply system. Before I click on that, just note that if you don't see your project on this list, it's maybe because it's showing the first 100. So just drop the pagination down to 1,000. You can see all the projects in the database. Also, before I leave here, note that you can export what's on the screen to a CSV. You can also add filters. So if you're looking for just the projects in your that you applied for, You just throw that filter on, and you can throw on a multi-variable filter if you like. Remove the filter just by clicking off of it. And then there's keyword search. And if you're familiar with any of the databases that we built that look similar to this, it's all the same functionality. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go into, I'll show you like how to get back to the application that was submitted by the applicant. So if you click on the apply app link here, that'll take you to the apply database. I'll get logged in. You'll have to be logged in. If you don't have an account, reach out to Matthew. Once you're logged in the first time, you won't need to keep logging in. But once you're logged in, you'll be directed to the application associated with the project that you were interested in. I may be seeing more on my screen than what you would see, but that's the general gist of it there. So that's what this is going to link you to, right? To view more information about the project, click on the See More button. There's a lot happening here, but it's just scratching the surface. Additional information will be added as we go through the process. But right now, what we've done is we've captured the most significant project details here. Some of this is appearing in the table, but there is additional information here on this page, including the location termini and the project description. And then we'll be going in and working with you to identify the current phase. So if you've gotten through right-of-way acquisition, then we would note that under current phase, for example. Funding rows. This is a feature that we will begin using once we begin making award recommendations, but it'll continue to be null until then. Up until that point, it's the total cost and the updated cost estimate that we'll provide to you all. That will be our basis for understanding financial need of the plan. Once we start identifying award recommendations, we'll begin adding that information here, very similar to the way we display funding information in the TIP database itself. So if you have a short-term project that would be programmed into the TIP, you would see funding per year from fiscal years 26 through 2030 for any funding recommendations we have in the short term. If funding is recommended for for the mid and long range horizon, you will just see all of the money rolled up into that to one row for that horizon. That'll be how that works moving forward. But the one section of this page beyond the project details that we are using right now, and you're welcome to use it to your advantage, is the project notes. And so if you have any questions about this project or need to request any changes, want to interact with our staff, or you want to provide additional information here versus the application database, you can add a project note. And anybody, you don't have to be logged in to do this, just fill out the form, give us your contact information. If you need to upload documents, you can do that through this feature as well. Then actions will relate to once our staff starts workflow managing the project itself, we'll start logging activity in the action section. So there's a page like this for all the projects on the project list, and that's the main feature that we want you to use at the moment. We hit the Notes and Actions tab. This is going to be a place for you to see all the notes and actions in one location, because otherwise they're attached to the individual project. So as notes begin getting tagged to projects, you can come to this page to see a list of all the notes throughout the system. And then you can query this by, whatever variable you want, essentially. So this is an aggregation of all the notes and actions on the projects here. Project funding, I'll hit this real quick. This is blank as annotated here. This information will be available once funding recommendations are made, but this will be a place that you can come see all the individual funding awards that are made across all projects. It's basically aggregating all the information from individual projects that are on the details page that I just showed you here. Let's go to list management real quick. List management is basically the lookup tables for any lists that are populating values within a database, including organizations. So this would be just organizations that are associated with projects, primarily that is for the purposes of identifying the applicant or the sponsor right now. So this is the list here. This is likely an old, we just imported an old list for individual contacts associated with these organizations. So we can update this information. I believe, in fact, you can update it too. It's not password protected. So if you go into your organization and you want to update the contact, feel free to do so. But what you're also seeing on this page is for each of these organizations, the associated applications that have been submitted by that app ID. And this is interactive, so you can click on this and it'll take you to the project details page for that project. Other lists that you can view, funding codes, phases of work, those are not important right now. We're not using those. We won't use those until we start to assign recommended funding awards. And then improvement type, which we'll begin assigning to all the projects. Then for any of these lists, you'll be able to see not only the values that are part of the list, but any of the associated projects. So you can see a couple here that we've already tagged with improvement type, but eventually you'll see all the project IDs here that fit these categories. Let's do reports real quick. This is a beta version because we're not finished building it out, but it gives you a sense of where we're headed. This is just going to summarize some of the key metrics associated with the database. So these are the application categories that I just mentioned. So if you remember over on the apply database, there were 4 forms that you could fill out. That's what this is referring to here. This is the total cost of the applications associated with the group of applications submitted with each of these forms. These are the applications by applicant and category, same categories, just by the actual applicant organization. So these numbers don't look right to you. Just holler and we'll look into it. Eventually this will be drillable. So Fairview, you can click into 2 and see which of the 2 Greenway applications that you submitted. We'll have that feature turned on by the end of the week. This is the same information here, but showing the count of applications or showing the total cost of the sum of the total cost of the projects associated with those applications. And this is important to look at, I think, because it will help us identify any inconsistencies or things, help us find clues as to where there may be some errors in the information. So take a look at it. You don't need to audit this, but if something looks unreasonable or out of line, it's probably an indication that we've got something miscoded. The tables below this are just additional pivot type tables from the database that are based on information that has not been deployed yet, including the grants that will be assigned down the road. All right, I'm going to end on the resources tab. Just a quick list of all the links that might be helpful to you. These 2 links here take you to our website. So all the information about the transportation improvement programs for the GNRC area, including the Nashville TIP and the Clarksville TIP. If you're interested in the documentation about for that, this takes you to information about the regional transportation plan. And then these links go to databases. So this takes you to that apply app database, the apply.nashvilleintuitive.org database. This takes you to the interactive TIP database that many of you are familiar with. This takes you to the interactive map of projects in the current RTP. If you haven't used this tool, it probably extremely helpful to you in terms of understanding what's in the adopted plan. There's a lot of detail provided by this map. We have also, forgive the typo there, but we've also launched a new database for tracking projects identified in our regional public infrastructure needs inventory. This is a program that's funded through TASER. Their objective is to inform the state legislature each year on the total funding needs to pay for infrastructure across the state of Tennessee. We collect that information for TASER for our region, and then we use that information for a lot more than what they intend it to be used for with the legislature. We use it to support local capital improvement planning and to help us understand where there might be grant writing or grant administration opportunities as we work with locals to try to get their projects funded. But you can feel free to click into here, but you'll need, I'm logged in, but you'll need to create an account, which is very easy to do. If I log out, you get the screen, you don't have a login, you could just sign up and get access to what's in the public infrastructure needs inventory. But this is a list of infrastructure needs across the region, 13 counties. Murray is not included in this, but the other MPO counties are. And this is all types of infrastructure projects that are in local capital improvement plans or programs, including water, wastewater, utilities, facilities. There are transportation projects as well. And we're trying to make sure that this is aligned with the TIP and the RTP as we move forward. But you can explore this on your own if you are interested. Many of you are responsible for helping us collect this information. So our staff may be reaching out to you separately to update this information. But that is available to you there. And then finally, we've got a link to the Build With Us program, which gives you access to documentation related to the 10-year plan. If anybody is online from TDOT and can clarify for me whether or not there's an interactive map yet. I've not come across one, but it may not be linked from this page. This is a PDF that's downloadable. So maybe somebody from TDOT can chime in terms of what the best source of information is for the 10-year plan. There are other resources.
This is Anne Marie.
Hey, Anne Marie.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. They're working on an interactive right now, but it is not up. But I'm pretty sure, and I can double check on it, that when it is up and ready, it will still be on the Build With Us. They're trying to keep all things 10-year plan related on the Build With Us 10-year plan website. So
awesome. So this link is the right link, and
yes,
it'll go to the map eventually. And then there are other resources on this page that will be useful down the road. Just information about the different grant programs. These are the grant programs that were part of the universe as we were developing the current transportation improvement program. So this will be revisited just to make sure we've accounted for all the grant programs that are out there. There's probably some discretionary grant programs that are not listed here that we'll add, although I do see a few like Protect is on there, for example. But this will take you to information about the grants that describe eligibilities, required match, things that we don't control and things that we don't want to republish. We just want to simply give you a link to that information, but it's the same information we're going to be using to guide us through how to align the grants to the individual project needs that are identified through the process, because our transportation plan needs to be that detailed in terms of aligning individual grant programs to projects. So this is now available to you to explore. Again, best way to learn it is to not listen to me ramble about it for 15 minutes, but just to get in there, try it out, and reach out to any one of our staff for Q&A. Probably Matthew's your best point of contact, but Taylor, Daniel, Andrew, Tom, any of us can get you where you need to go. Matthew, anything you want to add here in terms of expectations for feedback?
Not any particular requests at the moment. We will be continuing to update this live. So if you're looking now and you see things missing, let us know. But just know that we are actively working on this.
Any questions from the committee? All right. Thank you, Daniel.